Hello, everyone. Good morning. The Abundance Oracle here. As I promised, we're going to discuss some techniques and categories and ideas about your annual goal setting. As a family, we did separate goals. So each daughter did their goals. I did my goals, and then we had a little bit of a goal session as a family as well. Now my kids are adults, so they still tell me that they do their goals the same time of the year with the same categories, and also they do it themselves, and they'll start doing it with their families as well. So that's sort of nice, a tradition that we set up when they were younger, and they're still following through with it. All right. You may do your goals differently, like put everyone's together, but we did not. So I'm going to go through some of the categories we used from young age all the way up through, and categories that they still keep. I have notes here so I don't forget anything, and I also have my reader glasses because I'm an old lady now. All right, please forgive me. All right, here we go. Section 1, we have athletic skills. So that was at the top for us, especially when they were little. For example, when they were 3-ish, I would lie on the floor and put my feet up, and they were taught how to learn to fly like an airplane, like you see all the time, everybody else doing. They also got, as they got older, the objective was increased. So then they would lie backwards, we'd flip them over, so they'd sort of be like doing a back handspring. High school, they were doing back handsprings. High school, they were doing back somersaults, actually, back tucks. Okay, so as they go year by year, so November we discuss things, maybe modify things, until we get exactly what we want. And you're going to have to be the one to guide your kids on what's too big a goal for a year for them and too small a goal. But athletics skills was one of them. Okay, 2, grades in school. This will help you as a parent out a lot. At least it helped me out a lot. I don't have any shame. So as they got older, I would sort of bribe them, saying for every A when they were young, they'd receive $5. That must have been middle school. I'm trying to remember when exactly it was. As they got older, the reward and the objective was increased. So high school was $500. The prize was straight A's on their whole report card. They didn't get it very often, and it was painful when they did get it, but I never had to ask them, did you get your homework done? How are you doing in class? They actually were motivated to do the best that they could do. So it saved me a lot of time and energy, and I did have to pay out every once in a while. I remember once the only category, and I can't remember which daughter had this, but the only category that was below an A was physical education. And these are girls that were highly physical education, but I think there was a sprained ankle or something, and they didn't pass a certain part of it, so they got like an A-. An A- doesn't count. Straight A's is straight A's. But their negotiating skills that year started to get practice to talk me into, but Mom, an A- is an A, and but. I said, nope, you know the deal. So, okay, let's just see. When they got to college, straight A's for a semester was worth $1,000. Now, they were starting to get good at their grades. So that did cost a little bit of money. And I also coached them that the first year is the easiest year for them to get an A in class because it's all basic information. It's not real specific information for their, what do you call them, their major. And I said, a lot of kids will be going out learning how to party and drink and be out all hours of the night, and their grades won't be good, and you will have an opportunity the first half of the year and the second half of the year to be able to get A's much easier. Well, you know what my incentive was. Okay, they're not going to be going out partying all the time. They're going to be studying and doing their athletic sports. They both did cheerleading up into college and through college. Anyway, but there was a few times when they practiced negotiating with me. They did graduate with honors. I hardly ever had to speak about, bad grades, problems, anything like that. It saved so much energy. And all in all, it probably cost me over time, maybe $3,000, something like that. I don't know. It was well worth it to get kids that graduated with honors. Okay, now, number 3, money. So they would have a category for themselves on savings. How much savings in their savings account or piggy bank or whatever it was at the time. Same thing I do now with myself. How much do I have as auxiliary backup? How much money are they going to make for the year? How much money am I going to make for the year? How much debt do you have? If you have debt, we don't do debt. We do take and have airline credit cards that you pay off every month. They're very aware that it's any interest that goes to a credit card company is money taken out of your pocket and into theirs. So we don't do debt. Okay, next thing. Manners, beauty, things like doctors' appointments fall into this category too. No cavities. Make sure you take and brush your teeth very well so you have no cavities. So that goes into this category. They might say they want a new pair of shoes for prom, and so then we'd work on working a little job somehow for them to save some money for prom shoes or something like that. Okay, what we did when prom time was coming around, we would sit with some, not catalogs, I guess magazines, and I'd go through the magazines with them saying, here's the difference between this picture versus that picture. What does this make you think of the person in this picture? And you don't even know them. What do you think of this one? So we decided what was best for us was simple yet elegant. And I said, well, why do you say this one is simple and elegant, but you don't say that this one looks simple and elegant? So it's a good way for you to sort of instill we have conservative values, so I would say no nose rings, no any of that crazy stuff. If you're going to do any of that, that's going to be on your time after you move out of the house. Okay, let me just read a little more here. Oh yeah, in the beginning, when they were little, everything they wanted was sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. So that's where the conversation simple and elegant came up. So maybe it was better to have something a little bit more simple, a little more elegant than all these sparkles and glitter things and stuff like that. All right. The other thing that would fall under that category, every once in a while, I would take them to a fancy restaurant where you would sit down in the restaurant and we'd have lessons on where the knives go, where the forks go, what do you do with your napkin, when do you put your napkin in your lap, how do you signal to the waiter that you're done with your meal, turn over your fork, put it parallel with the knife on the top of the dish. So there would be all little lessons. So they would also say in this category, Mom, I want to be really good so you don't have to say anything when we go to our fancy dinners. So there's a lot of different categories. Whatever you're working on with your own skills, you can share those with your kids that one day they'll build up to be able to maybe buy their own house or their own car or things like that. Okay. Now the next category we had that I can remember, because this was a long time ago, fun goals. So one of my things was I wanted them to be able to ride a horse, and at least a minimum of once a year, they had to go horseback riding. So usually when we went on vacation or there was I'm going to call it a ranch, but it was really just a riding stable down the street when we lived in Connecticut, that you could go for the day, pay, I don't know, whatever it was, and the girl would lead you out on a horse, and you'd go on a little path. And then when they got bigger, we would go on trail rides. And then the people on the trail rides would say, well, you want to learn to gallop? Are you able to jump? So they were building skills on something that was fun, which I'll let my oldest daughter tell you one day the story about getting reared up on the horse, hanging on. Thank God we had a Western saddle instead of an Easter saddle. But one of their goals that they've had, and which went down on the resume, is different types of animal to ride. So they've been on a camel, they've been on an elephant, they've ridden on a dolphin in the water. So, they would just pick a different animal, and usually it was something we could get pretty easily a donkey at the carnival or something like that. But it's also was something that they put on their resume. So some people said, oh, wow, you've ridden on a lot of animals, or where did you find an ostrich? We didn't ride an ostrich, but I'm giving you an example. So that's an idea. Okay, the other thing we have, and I know I'm taking a long time, is volunteer work. So as little kids, I was really, really broke. And the Boys and Girls Club allowed them to come and be camp helpers, I think they called them, or something like that. So we paid a lot, like a third of what the normal cost was to have kids go to the Boys and Girls School and camp, and camp leaders maybe. I don't know what the name was. But anyway, they started to rack up hours, and I would be the one keeping track of how many hours they were volunteering versus, they're doing the canoe rides or something or other. So it helped a lot when my youngest girl got out and they said to her, volunteer work. She went in and she tried to make it on the junior chairman's club. And they had to interview and say, well, how did you participate with the Boys and Girls Club? How do you know us? And she said, since the get-go, we went to camp. And then when I got older, I volunteered and was a camp leader as part-time in the summers. And then when I got even older, I would teach a class in cheerleading. And I kept track of how many hours from the get-go they did for volunteering. And I don't remember, but it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours by the time she interviewed for this job. So it was a shoo-in. She's really, exemplary type of person to be able to contribute so many hours of volunteer work. But y'all can have your own categories Maybe you want to have with your work, one of my categories at work was new accounts and retention rates. So I would put that down. And as I put down my head goal, then I would break it down into small bite-sized pieces. And along with my kids, we'd each have a poster board where we learned how to draw straight lines on poster boards when they're little, and how you learn to write nicely, and penmanship, what is script, let's practice the script so you can put this on your poster board for your goals for the New Year's, for it to look really good every night when you go to bed, you can read your goals. So there's a lot of teaching that you can do ongoingly around goals. And we put them at the footboards of the beds. Actually, one of them had it on the side. So when I came in to say good night, at night I can say, how'd you do today? Or how was this week? I remember your goal, and I could look over and I could say, oh, this week you said, or this month you were going to get so many babysitting jobs and save so much money. How'd you do? So I could help reinforce their goals and objectives. And then when I go to get in bed, and I have mine on the side of my bed as well, I start to plan for the upcoming day at work. I also had a day timer that I broke things down into month to month. And then after I got it into month to month, I would do it week to week, and sometimes even day to day. The other thing I thought was extremely helpful in organizing was a mind map. I don't know how many of you know about a mind map. Maybe I should do that as well. But that's a very complex goal chart for yourself. And it's very, very useful over the years in developing a lot of different categories at once. So the center spoke is like a tire. What are you looking to do as your life goal? So for me, it's fun and abundance were the two things that I wanted, fun and abundance. And then the little spikes would go out, and one would be for one daughter, one would be for the other daughter, one would be for my finances, one would be for the family So I'd have, by the time I'm done, this thing looks like a bicycle wheel with all these spikes out. And it's much easier to keep track of and see which categories you're being good about, which categories you're being bad about, which I can tell you, running, I was not good at running distances. I don't think I've ever made it past 3 miles my whole life. I would hit a wall at 3 miles and could never get past it. Anyway, oh my gosh, 18 minutes. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. Please write any questions you have down or anything else you'd like me to cover further with regards to goals, and I'll make sure I address them. Okay, thank you so much for coming. I hope you come back again and we can chat further about creating abundance in your life. Thank you. Bye-bye.